Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and obviously, we are getting back to our Medicaid series, and we are going to be going through our disclaimers and the trigger warnings here in a moment. But first, folks, completely fine, but as per usual, regards to my workout routine, I kind of murdered myself. So, please forgive the very lazy posture, but at the same time, this is so comfortable. Alright, folks, so, to the disclaimers. For every single video within our little Medicaid series, in particular going over the looming threat of cuts to Medicaid. And yes, folks, it's not a Democratic hoax. All my information has been confirmed by the folks both out of the United States ARC via their website and confirmed by the allies out of the ARC office here in my own city known as ARC of the Ozarks. So, this is not a Democratic hoax. This is, I don't even know how you can even actually call that at this point when it's been literally Medicaid as well as Social Security. It's information that's come out of the horse's mouth. But what I will tell you in regards to politicians, Democrats, Republicans, and everything else in between, do not trust whatever either side is trying to push as a narrative through the media. No, not even YouTube supporters. Politics, whether we like it or not, our views are skewed through the own lens through which we view them. It's always best to get your information from usual non-partial sources. I consider ARC to be that because I have never seen them at any point in my life. And I've been involved with them now for at least going on 20 years. Campaign for literally any politician running for office at any time. At the very most, I've seen them at different political rallies, but it is not there to push for one candidate or another, but to specifically ask candidates what their stances are in regards to things such as Medicaid funding, the continued help from federal folks to promote and spread community-based services and living for those of us who are disabled. Alright? If the ARC is freaking out, there's smoke. And you all know when there's smoke, there's usually fire. So please keep that in mind. And always look at secondary sources, in particular those that you know are actually objective first. Because you can't trust either side as far as you can throw them. And although I have pretty strong legs and my arms are getting stronger, I'm not exactly known for my arm strength. Alright, to the disclaimers first. Again, you are going to see all the links for this Medicaid series right there in the description box. All materials used with the useful labels right above them, so you'll know what each link leads to, in case you would like to get in a little bit more in depth and go over this information we are going through on this channel a little more at your leisure and at your own pace. Now, the trigger warnings. Let's start with the most obvious one. We do have this channel marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity. And some of the topics that we cover on this channel, such as the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center, are exceedingly dark and do discuss some very triggering topics. So if your child is 16 and younger and they are viewing this content, very much parental supervision is something that is very much advised. Also, as just said a moment ago, I am not partisan. If you are either MAGA or Democrat and you are gung-ho in either direction, more than likely on this channel, I'm going to say something that's going to offend you. If that is something that maybe it's not something you're going to be wanting to deal with, I completely understand. It will not hurt my feelings if you pause this video right now and shut it off. But before you do, I do still ask that you please utilize the description box and go over the information. Because the information, what's getting ready to hit us, is a hell of a lot more important than my feelings. Alright? Alright, so Section 1915, we're going to go through two sections today because this one in particular is a little bit short. So, Section 1915, Home and Community-Based State Plan Benefit Option. Now remember, as of right now, we're talking about Medicaid funding in regards to assisted living situations, assisted living apartments, things of that nature. We will be going into the group home fundings in regards to Medicaid separately, because although they're similar, there's a few differences to take note of there. So, let me get started here. The Section 1915, let me see, that's an I, of the Act allows states to offer housing-related services that are similar in nature to those offered under the Section 1915C. Remember, renovations, assistance in making living spaces more mobility-friendly, things of that nature, which are not cheap, holy crap. Not even close. Alright. However, beneficiaries do not have to meet institutional level of care, and the state cannot place a limit on the number of individuals served. States may use this state plan option to provide housing-related services to adults with behavioral health conditions, or those who would not otherwise qualify under a Section 1915C waiver. So that is the kind of similar waiver that I got into in my state, because it's a weird kind of area where both developmental disability, autism is considered they're considered behavioral health conditions because of behaviors, while at the same side also mainly considered as a developmental disability. Developmental delay in particular, like what we mentioned yesterday while going over the anti-vax movement in Andrew Wakefield. So we fit in that little weird area there. So a similar waiver out here, which its exact number escapes me because I have slept since then and it's been over a decade. Well, yeah, it's been over a decade. That stopped around 2008, so yeah. So I don't remember the exact coding that was used for the particular waiver that I was on at the time, but it's very similar to the one that it's mentioning here, because I was coming out of high school and into the assisted living apartment and into the transition program to go from high school to workforce or secondary education. Texas uses authority to pay for home modifications, like we mentioned, transition assistance. Again, so that's our community-based program. So we're talking about both helping us in obtaining job skills, providing job coaching, and providing us with individuals who will help us obtain community-based employment within our own communities, as well as job coaching while on the job. Usually the first week or two when you're in that program on the job, you do have your job coach there with you, helping you to learn the ropes, which I'm not gonna lie, it's a big help to those who need it. It drove me batshit insane. Completely, utterly batshit insane. You ever have two bosses breathing down your neck and scrutinizing everything you do at the same time? Yeah. Thankfully, I was with a group of folks that were willing to listen to me, and they started towards the end of it before I started to strike out on my own to only make it a day or two, and then afterwards leave me to my own devices. But yeah, that's kind of what they're talking about there. It's also more than that. It also covers teaching life skill things. For example, how to cook, how to maintain cleanliness, how to take care of your own baking, keep your medical information organized and accessible to be able to take to your next doctor appointment if required, things of that nature, and long-term recovery support services for adults with serious mental issues. Services include minor home modifications, the transition assistance we just spoke of, supervised living services. In my case, in the assisted living, which this drove me completely insane too, because my home, my apartment, with or without roommate, is my pseudo-autistic bubble of nope. Having someone that would come in about once a week to make sure that you're keeping up on keeping your place clean and tidy, and that you're eating and shopping for healthy things, even when you know it's coming and it's part of the overall services and supposed to help you make that type of behavior normal. This is my pseudo-autistic bubble of no. Yeah, didn't like it. Didn't like it. Forced peopling. Sorry, not sorry. That did drive me nuts. It does have a lot of good behind the reasoning as to why they do that within transition age services. But yeah, on the receiving end, it becomes so annoying. And supported home living. Under Section 1915I, North Dakota provides pre-tenancy and tenancy sustaining services to individuals who could be safely transitioned from an institutional setting to a lower level of care, individuals who are at risk of institutionalization, and those who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness. Again, one of those types of facilities is not really a facility. It's an assisted living apartment for those folks who are more medically fragile, which is the sassafras apartments. I actually met them through work at the state when I came down there, and I did a presentation in regards to disability rights. I forget the exact topic, but it had to do with assisting in advocating for something local in regards to making for better accommodations, mobility access in the downtown area of our city, which during the time, yeah, because believe it or not, us developmentally disabled folks and people with disabilities like to go downtown, hear the bands, and have beer once in a while. Easiest way to do that in a place like that is to make these places a bit more accessible for individuals who do need that little extra help in regards to mobility so that they can come out there and enjoy that sort of thing too. So that's kind of part of the things that they are talking about. There's some of the funding that helps cover, things of that nature. All right, now moving on to the next area, the 1905 State Plan Services. 1905A of the Act, sorry, let me redo that. Section 1905A of the Act gives states the authority to provide services under the Medicaid state plan for individuals transitioning from institutions or trying to obtain or maintain housing in the community. See, that's more similar to what I was speaking about that I got in initially coming out of high school and into the assisted living program. An individual transitioning, I'm kind of rereading myself, sorry. And an example of such a service is targeted case management, which can assist beneficiaries in gaining access to needed medical, social, educational, and housing services. Again, that's a lot more like what the program that I was a part of. I did have my own case manager through the state, and they assisted in getting me started with ARC because the ARC were the folks, it was their employees that took care of the managers of the assisted living property. It was also from them that I received my community integrators, the folks that would assist me in learning life skills, help get me out in the community and at least try, although they failed, let's face it, autistic, to help desensitize me to some of the more annoying sensory issues caused by living in the middle of a city, or in that case, a suburb of a city. Things of that nature. It covered that sort of thing. With case management, that was a part of my overall person-centered planning, part of my circle of support. So we would meet monthly, and it would have my case manager, it would have my manager at the actual apartments there, my community integrator, and it was I who insisted on having my mom there with us as well for two reasons. A, I have the short-term memory of a goldfish. Not even kidding. Long-term memory is like stupid good. My short-term memory is just bad. Whereas hers is a lot better. So having her there to bring up some of the things from previous meetings that we had covered, as well as adding in her observations, whether I was improving in those areas or not, I thought was actually vital because it gave me another pair of eyes that were actually objective. And so we would sit down at the table, we would go over the person-centered plan, and we had monthly goals. So we would go back to the previous goals set the previous month to see where we were at. Were there things in there that still needed to be worked on? Were there some things that I didn't necessarily need to continue to have additional support on if I've already kind of mastered that area? That sort of thing is what they're talking about there. Typically, case managers work with beneficiaries to assess their needs, devise a plan, and either provide services or connect them to resources for other non-covered services. Case managers are required to monitor and follow up beneficiaries on their progress. So exactly what we were just speaking about a moment ago. I still have a circle of support. It's just shrink as my needs in regards to supports, since I have reached all those milestones at this point a long time ago, doesn't need to be anymore quite what it was. That being said, I still need to religiously use my chore chart that I started back then, because in spite of being 40, if I don't, yeah. I don't have it in front of me where I can eyeball it and turn it into a part of my regular weekly routine. Things go bad, and then the next thing you know, my living room becomes a mess covered in plastic grocery bags because too lazy to pick them up and then put them in another bag on the door to use them for kitty litter stuff. Sorry, I took you all in the left field. I apologize. Let me go ahead and get this finished up here. In Minnesota, case managers help clients reach housing services and resources, often by connecting them in specialized agencies and organizations such as ARC. Connecticut offers targeted case management to individuals with SUD and co-occurring mental illness to help beneficiaries find a place to live or keep current housing, and to assist in monitoring their budgets to ensure they can maintain their housing. So providers do not directly budget for an individual or pay bills on the behalf of the beneficiary. That was the same for me. They wanted to make sure that I was eyeballing my budget and knew what my money was every single month. And here's the weird thing. In spite of being absolutely horrible at math and hating it with the entirety of my soul, the one thing I have actually always been very good at was staying within budget. I think it's because, as an autistic, I really like those guardrails. You know, I want to set something in stone, and that's just how it is, and them's the rules. I don't know, it gives a weird feeling of safety, maybe, a sense of control. Even though I know it's an illusionary sense of control, I'm not complaining. I'll take it, especially right now, considering. Alright, and on that part, folks, we are going to close, but before we do, just to recash it for those who are new to the channel, the reason why we're going through this is I want individuals to understand, in regards to Medicaid funding, what exactly that money is going towards. Because a good majority of folks who either don't have a child in the service system or have never been in the service system themselves have the idea that things like Medicaid really only covers medical care and mental health care. So when they do these massive cuts that they're looking to do, they don't realize all the different programs that they are gutting and leaving on life support, or the dramatic impact that those cuts are going to have by those cuts in regards to who is going to be able to have access to Medicaid, to that funding, who desperately need it. Every time there's a cut, eligibility gets narrowed more and more and more every single year. Which is why I still believe, if we want to talk like adults in regards to Medicaid, I know we're in trouble. I've known it for years. I've spoke on it plenty of times enough. But cutting things blindly is going to cause irrevocable harm and chaos to some of the most vulnerable people in our country. And I think individuals who are looking to cut into programs like Medicaid should have a better idea of exactly what that is all going to hit. You know? I'm just saying. If it were me, I would have, instead of, hiring a bunch of tech bros, if I was serious about getting things under control so that we won't be out of Medicaid and Social Security in 2035, assembled a freaking crack team of the most brilliant forensic accountants in the world and locked them in a room and have them not just go over funding for Medicaid, but every single federal program with a fine-tooth comb in order to take a look at the mess and what can be done to clean it up in a way that is not going to impact so horrendously some of the most vulnerable people in this country. So that's what we are doing, We're going to close out right before we do. Know that tomorrow I'm going to be starting the new series on HUD and in particular the Section 8 voucher. With HUD looking at some severe cuts as well as Medicaid and Social Security. I want to go over exactly what Section 8 itself actually is and what that service does for individuals like myself. And what are the exact changes? I do not enjoy fear-mongering, and there's been a lot of clickbait titles that have sent a lot of people I care about into panic that has beyond pissed me the fuck off. Sorry, not sorry. So we're going to be going over that. We're going to take a look at what the changes actually are, what the cuts are actually going to be, and how that's going to have an overall impact. But for now, folks, we don't get very many views on this channel. And the few we do tend to get removed from time to time. So if you could, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and as always, folks, please don't forget to hit the comments. I appreciate your time this afternoon, and as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea absolutely do hope you have a good one. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye, everyone.